Greetings YouTube viewers, Sleepless Dog here on YouTube, SC Smith on shootingreviews.com back with you. In front of me are three Byrd by Spyderco knives. These are the Cara Cara 2 G10, Meadowlark 2 G10, and Robin 2 G10. These are the three basic sizes ranging from a hair over 2.5 inch blade or maybe a hair under 2.5 inch blade. Slightly under 3-inch blade on the Meadowlark, and the 3.75 inch, 3 3/4 inch blade on the Cara Cara 2. Nice big chunk of steel. These knives all run online. Currently, you can find them all for $32 or less. I believe these are still Prime eligible on Amazon at those price points. Again, G10 scales, not the most consistent G10, kind of a medium, light medium traction here on the Meadowlark. The Robin and the Cara Cara 2 have pretty high traction G10. All, of course, full flat ground plain edge, and the three that I picked up all have nice screwed together construction with Torx T6 on the body screws and the clip screws, and a T8, I believe, pivot screw. Haven't played with the pivot in a while. Also, as you'll see, standard Spyderco pocket clip that can be run with lanyard pass-through or has the hole to pass through the pivot. So, made in China, as most of you know. You get the biggest and the smallest, these two out of the way, and we'll just focus on the Meadowlark because the characteristics are pretty common across the line. They're actually very common. This is roughly a Delica size knife. The Cara Cara 2 is roughly an Endura size knife, and the Robin is roughly a Dragonfly size knife. So, I actually like the Meadowlark and the Cara Cara better than the Delica and the Endura. The reasoning is these guys do something that Spyderco is known for that I really like. In addition to the full flat ground blade, the base of the blade forms this awesome finger coil where you can check up for fine work. It's also, to me, more aesthetically pleasing. Nice jimping here. Not really nice jimping. It's okay jimping on these guys. You can see the back jimping is a little, it's not real fine, and it's coarse jimping, and I shouldn't say not real fine, it's not squared up well. But again, these are $32 knives. The blade steel, 8CR13 MOV, it's said to be a Chinese copy of AUS 8. Fairly similar chemical composition. I've heard arguments that AUS 8 is a lot cleaner, with Aichi having just a cleaner melt process than whatever generic manufacturer in China is making 8CR13 MOV. I really don't care. The blade still performs pretty darn well. Keeps it at an inexpensive price point. Spyderco's got the heat treat right. The edges are pretty darn consistent on these. Blades aren't perfectly centered. You see that one's definitely favoring the clip side liner, but they're not scraping. Skeletonized steel liners keep the weights pretty reasonable. 4-position pocket clip, tip up, tip down, right or left hand carry. So again, for me, the blade steel is good enough. It's very similar to the AUS 8 that was used on the, I want to say second, possibly second and third generation Delica and Endura. Maybe it was just the second gen. Can't remember if it was the third gen that went to ATS 55 or the fourth gen, and whether we're on the fourth gen or the fifth gen now with the VG10 steel. Anyway. Regardless, even though the Delica and Endura currently have VG10 steel, the 8CR13 MOV is good enough for everyday use. And for the price difference, these are about half the price if not a little less, than a Delica or an Endura. In a Zytel handle, Delica or Endura. And you get the G10 here. So you also get, as I said again, I like the finger coil. Just lets me choke up for fine grip, get my hand back for standard work. Very strong lockup, very sturdy. There is no movement up and down. Maybe just a tiny bit of side-to-side movement. Steel backspacer that's got some scalloping in it. Looks pretty. Does cut a little bit of weight. These are really nicely fitted and finished knives. So what prompted me to do this review was one of my friends who is still in the Air Force was telling me, conversation we were having online the other day, that his Benchmade that was issued to him for deployment got stolen back here stateside. So, man, that stinks that, you know, one of our own brothers or sisters in the Air Force stole it from him. Took it out of his desk. Really shady thing to do. But anyway, yeah, he's on a staff sergeant's pay with a wife and a kid. I'm going to send him a folder to be determined, but there's probably a lot of guys in his position that, you know, if they're lucky enough to get issued a knife, they can't afford to replace it, and a lot of guys aren't getting issued knives, particularly with budget cuts now. Pocket knives are just not an issue item, really. So there's guys that they're on budgets, and they need a good quality knife that I can recommend. I would recommend these 100% to anybody in the service looking for a moderately priced knife that's rugged. Again, you can see my Benchmade Griptilian long-term review to see the kind of abuse I've put knives through. Haven't abused these quite as hard, but I've used them enough that I can tell the quality's there. My only hesitation, they're made in China, but I can get over that because they are made there for a US-based company that also does a lot of manufacturing in the US, and it gets you a quality product at a reasonable price. So, highly recommend these as a budget knife. Again, I like the Meadowlark here, the medium-sized one, better than the similarly sized Spyderco Delica. Now, if Spyderco were to switch the Delica to have the nice integrated finger coil, be a different story. But for now, I like that better. I guess the final thoughts here would be going to the smallest of the series, the Robin. Very similar size to a Spyderco Dragonfly. The Dragonfly, unlike its bigger brothers, the Delica and the Endura, actually has the little finger coil, much like the Byrd Robin. So, from a usability standpoint, I could live with a Dragonfly, even in the Zytel, the FRN, the FRP, whatever you want to call it, material, to get the VG10 steel, to get the Japanese manufacturer, over the Robin. The other thing with the Robin, also recycles that same clip used on the Delica, the Endura, its bigger brothers in the Byrd line. The clip's almost as big as the knife. Not a bad thing, it's just big. Again, it's not a low or a deep carry clip. It does sit fairly low in the pocket because Spyderco did, again, switch to that same clip on the Delica and the Endura, so it sits way up on the edges of the handle, either side you mount it on. So I like that, but Dragonfly gives you the excellent deep carry wire clip, which I'm a fan of. So I would rather get the Dragonfly than this guy, but again, you're going to pay twice the money for a Dragonfly. So if you're looking for an economical alternative to a Dragonfly, yeah, get a Robin. They're great. If you heard the shaking noise just there to the side, that was my dog shaking her head. Everybody say hey to Lacey Dog. Hey, Lacey Dog. Little grunt from Lacey Dog. So, anyway, I really like these. They're inexpensive. They're good quality. They have more than adequate edge holding. They're also very easy to sharpen, which, you know, for field expedient sharpening, sometimes a super steel is not the best thing in the world. But check them out if you got a retailer close by that's got them. Even if you don't, if you got to purchase one sight unseen, strongly recommend these. I am going to get my hands on some US made alternatives soon, so keep checking back with me for further updates. Thanks once again for tuning in.